welcome to Market Open Direct Connect, a webinar series for companies to tell their story, why it's compelling and why it's an opportunity to invest. I'm your host, Stuart Walters, and we're joined here today by CEO Daniel Hastings and Non-Executive Director Peter Fox of GBM Resources, ASX code GBZ. GBM Resources are currently exploring high-grade gold systems in the Drummond Basin, one of Australia's most underexplored epithermal gold belts. Both Daniel and Peter will be providing an overview of the company's projects, outline the near-term exploration program, and participate in a Q&A post-presentation. Be mindful that Dan is currently on site. If there are any issues with the reception, Peter will step in and finish out the rest of the presentation. A recording of this webinar will be available on Market Open and GBM's communication channels within the next 24 hours. So I'd like to introduce our guests. Daniel, Peter, welcome to Direct Connect, and over to you guys.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Good to be connected, and good afternoon to you, those tuning in.
Okay, well, let's jump straight into it. So I'm Daniel Hastings. I was recently appointed CEO of GBM Resources, and today we're just going to talk about the Drummond Basin. We hold a very significant land holding within the Drummond Basin. There's three main areas that we refer to as Mount Coolin in the east, and that's currently under joint venture with Newmont. And then we've got Yandan in the north and Twin Hills in the south. Within all three prospects, or three tenement areas, we've got 1.8 million ounces in mineral resource, with 1.5 million ounces sitting in the Yandan and the Twin Hills areas. The tenement holding within the Drummond Basin is really prospective for epithermals. It's a known epithermal basin, similar to the Coromandel Peninsula in New Zealand, or Santa Cruz in Argentina, or even the Golden Triangle in British Columbia. So the geology's right, and the expectation is that there is a very large gold endowment within the basin. At the moment, there's only really Pajingo, and total ounces less than 10 million within the basin itself. And these basins generally run in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of ounces. So Santa Cruz is 25 million ounces. The Golden Triangle's pushing up towards 250 million ounces. So it's definitely the right address. The mineralization that we see within our tenement holdings is exceptionally high grade, like epithermals can be. Down at Twin Hills, where we've got the million ounces, you can see there some of the intercepts are quite spectacular. At the 309 deposit, saw 17 meters at 317 grams per ton, including 5 meters at 1,036 grams per ton. The highest intercept that we've got down at Twin Hills is actually 2,940 grams per ton, and there are over 300 individual meter intervals over 30 grams per ton. So very high grade system. At Yandan, similar story there. Another 500,000 ounces sitting up at Yandan, highly mineralized. And there was an old mining operation up there that people may recall in the 90s. Ross Mining had the Yandan mine there, where they extracted 365,000 ounces of gold. And at that stage, the gold price was about $250 an ounce, and it was Australia's highest margin gold mine at that time. On top of that, known mineralization, there's a lot of potential within these tenements, and we'll talk to that a little bit later. The other thing to note is that 90% of the current resources are sitting within mining leases, and we've got good confidence in those ounces, with just under 60% being measured and indicated. So can we go to the next slide, please? So just a bit of a corporate snapshot here. As you may be aware, recently the Apollo Group came in and cleaned up the corporate side of the business, essentially got it to the position now where it's debt-free and it's well funded. Some of the guys have jumped on the board, Ian Middlemas, that you probably know, Andrew Crelly, Peter Fox, who's here with us, Robert Behetz, ex-WMC geologist who had a lot to do with Papillon. Yeah. So That's what it looks like at the moment. We've got a market cap of around $120 million. And we're in a position to get on the ground and get exploring. So if we look at the Twin Hills project, where we've got 1 million ounces, this is where we see some low-hanging fruit, where we can get in early and expand the mineral resource. So where the two deposits lie, which is 309 in the north and Lone Sister in the south, they sit on a 14-odd kilometre long mineralised trend, structural corridor, where there's a lot of anomalous soil geochemistry and a lot of anomalous geophysics. So if we just look up in the north around 309, where we have roughly 500,000 ounces, so the split of the 1 million ounces is pretty much 50-50. In the 309 deposit, we've got 10.6 million tonnes at 1.5 grams. The reason why the average grade is relatively lower than some of the intercepts that you're seeing there is because the assumption was made that material in the top 250 meters is open pittable, and as per JORC requirements, having mineralization being an expectation of being economic in the future means that the cutoff grades drop to 0.4 grams per tonne because this mineralization is economic at current gold prices. So it's pulled in a lot of relatively lower mineralization and hence the lower overall grade. Mineralization that sits below that top 250 meters is of higher grade, and you can see there that just over 500,000 tonnes is sitting in there at 3.9 grams per tonne. This mineralization is a hydrothermal breccia. We're at the top of the system. We know this through a whole heap of geological indicators. And as these systems get deeper, they tend to narrow up and the grades start to increase. So you're looking for these primary feeder zones. In this particular case, it hasn't really been tested at depth at all, and it hasn't been tested laterally either. So it's open in most directions. The other important thing is that given the nuggety nature of epithermal deposits, so you get these pods of high grade, really, really high grade within the system, drill hole spacing needs to be quite close to define up a mineral resource. So we're looking at something around 25 to 30 metre drill hole spacing to get into that measured category. There are a lot of gaps, 70 to 80 metres wide, where we'll do some infill drilling and pick up ounces. If you look at the area around the 309 deposit and we look at some of the geophysics and some of the geochemistry, there's very strong indications that this is a much larger system. And the analogy, although I don't like using analogies because each deposit is its own, but the analogy is Pajingo to the north. Pajingo is in the same rocks, it's the same style of mineralization. And here you can see at the same scale, the long section we have through our 309 deposit and the targets that we've got to the north and the south, and the Pajingo deposit. And they look kind of similar, and that's what happens with these systems. They'll extend along these mineralized structures and you'll get these pods of very high grade mineralization. In this phase of drilling that we're doing between now and the end of the year, about 70% of our meters are going into the 309 deposit, where we'll look to increase the mineral resource through smart drilling, where we're going to infill as we go down to look at extensions to the mineralization. But we're also going to put about 10% of our meters into new targets. So we're going to drill Wilbur's to the north, which has an exceptionally good geochemical and geophysical signature, and we're very, very excited about that. The remaining meters are going to go into Lone Sister, which is about 7 kilometres south of 309, along the same mineralised corridor, and contains roughly the same ounces. It's got 0.48 million ounces. This mineralization is hosted a little bit differently. Instead of being a massive hydrothermal breccia, it's within a rhyolite dome or a rhyolite intrusion that's undergone brittle fracturing, and then the mineralizations come in and use that as the host. As you can see, looking at this cross section, it's really sharply sided, squarish, And that's due to the drilling density. There just has not been enough drilling there, and they haven't stepped out. Previous exploration never stepped out. The other thing that's interesting is that all of this drilling was done on an east-west orientation, perpendicular to the corridor, but epithermal systems are not like that. So you get a lot of dilational zones occurring on that east-west kind of trend. So you want to be drilling north-south as well. And not a single hole's been put into this deposit north-south or south-north. So the first hole that we're going to drill here actually goes from the north to the south, and it'll pick up some infill and look to test the lower extensions of the mineralization. And again, you've got big intercepts here. I mean, you can see there 146 meters at 9.8 grams per ton. This is a really well mineralized system and is open in a lot of directions. When we start to explore a little bit deeper and look for these primary feeder zones, the expectation is that grade will pick up even more. So within the Twin Hills tenement package, there's a lot of anomalies. So here you can see the two orange mineral resources, 309 and Lone Sister, and all of the occurrences that we have, all of the prospects that we have where we're seeing anomalous geophysics and anomalous geochemistry. So there's a lot of ground that we've got to cover. We have a systematic exploration program to go and work up each of these deposits, and then reprioritize as we get information back and advance them in a systematic way. But it really does show and highlight the exploration potential of our area and the Drummond Basin as a whole. In the north, we've got Yandan. This is where Ross Mining had their operation back in the mid-90s, and we've got 500,000 ounces sitting there. So we're not going to do any drilling up there before the end of the year, but we are going to do some geophysics to help us better target. We're also going to do some geophysics at Twin Hills. We're going to do some seismic and some IP. We don't need it for the current drilling program, but moving forward, it'll help us target better at depth. So at Yandan, the 500,000 odd ounces that we've got in mineral resource, most of it sits underneath the old East Hill deposit where Ross Mining took out a very small amount of material. Here, there was a lot of drilling done early on, and the geological interpretation was that the generator fault was the mineralizing fault, that the fluids had come along this structure and then into the hanging wall. And then you see those high-grade parallel vein type of mineralization there, which is a classic epithermal signature. But some really good work by GBM back in 2022 proved conclusively that the generator fault is post-mineralization. So there is a route to all of this high-grade mineralization. It's just been offset. So we think we know where it probably is, but the geophysics will help us really zero in on that target. And once again, these feeder zones, as they go deeper, they narrow up, but the grade starts to really increase. So we're also very excited about East Hill and its potential. Within the larger Yandan area, beneath the old Yandan pit, there's still a lot of mineralization there that was drilled out. But given the gold price and given, in the 90s where Ross Mining was, they basically pulled the material out at a zero waste operation. It was all heap leach. They never bothered to go and look for the deeper feeder zones. They'd made their money, and they just didn't see at that stage, didn't see the value in doing that. So there's some indications around the area of where these primary feeder zones may be. Like I said, we're going to do some more geophysics and go and target these areas and look to find the feeders for this quite spectacular mineralization that was taken out by Ross Mining. When you're up high in a system like that, to see that much gold there means that there's going to be juice at depth. We also, down to the south of the Yandan area, have another very small deposit called Ilamata. The interesting thing about Ilamata is that it sits inside the largest geochemistry anomaly, soil geochemistry anomaly that we've seen, and old geophysics that we had reprocessed from the 90s shows an exceptional target, geophysical target, sitting below the known mineralization. So, this is another prospect that we want to get into early next year, and again highlights, the prospectivity of the tenements that we're holding. So again, this is our tenement package to the north at Yandan. You can see there in the orange the areas where we have mineral resources, and then all of the anomalies and prospects. Again, we're going to do systematic exploration, and you can see the one that I quite like, because it's fairly textbook, is Murdering Lagoon. There, the magnetic signature that you're seeing in the background is indicative of a vertical to subvertical intrusion, and we've got geochemistry over the top that tells us it's mineralized. So, to what extent is it mineralized? Well, we're going to have to put a couple of holes down there and see, but we can definitely say that there's an intrusive underneath Murdering Lagoon that's carrying some mineralization, which is very exciting for us. So, like I've briefly outlined, we've got a near-term exploration program. For the rest of this year, we're going to continue on with that systematic greenfields exploration. We're going to do 9,500 meters of drilling at 309 and Yandan. We're also going to do 10% of our drill holes at Bullock Creek and Wilbers to continue on with that blue sky type of exploration. We're also going to do a very short metallurgical program. There was historical metallurgical work done on the deposit that showed a fairly standard flow sheet returning 95, 96% recovery. But none of that was released to the market. So we're just going to do a confirmation program, and then we can put that out. The other thing that we're going to do, I suppose, in the larger picture, and this is the development strategy, is in the short term, we validate and grow the resource. Next year, we look to Yandan and Twin Hills to demonstrate scale, to grow the resource to a larger level. While we're doing that, we'll be technically de-risking the project, so making sure that our exploration spend is being used efficiently. So we'll do geotech, we'll do hydrogeology, those type of things. And then at a certain point, once we understand the quantum of the mineralization that we've got, we'll look to bring in some study work and convert from mineral resources to ore reserve. And then while this is all going on, we'll look to prove the upside of the tenements, so looking for new discoveries within the holding. And then when the time's right, we'll convert that into value through fast tracking development.
Dan, thank you. Fantastic presentation.